And I think that Democrats are having a very strong and intense wake-up call about just how radical this is and how radical particularly mothers in the country find this. My friend Drea De Matteo, who's the actress from The Sopranos, her eldest daughter, she wanted to get a tattoo with her and she can't because she's 17, she's not 18. And I was like, but she could change genders. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, we are in the insane asylum. I feel very excited about the changes that are going to start happening because I do think he's going to, like, on this issue, like, I do think some of this insanity is going to stop soon.
All right, guys, I hope you had a great weekend. To those who have served, today is Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. We got a lot to break down. By the way, J.D. Vance is going to be the first Marine to ever serve as vice president. I saw that on the GOP Instagram account. And we've added some more veterans to the halls of Congress. So that's good. Having these guys come into elective office is helpful when making decisions about the state of our military, the priorities, making some significant needed changes. Anyway, this is all good news. And it's also official. Trump has swept all of the battleground states. We'll talk about that in just a second. Big week ahead. Newt Gingrich is going to be on. Steve Bannon is going to be on. Meghan McCain is here today. And we've got a race for majority leader that we'll talk about. We've got Elon Musk, Tucker, Charlie Kirk, and others all lining up behind Rick Scott from Florida to be the next majority leader. A lot to break down. Real quick, though, we've seen, in the last little while, what natural disasters look like and the impact that they have, unfortunately. And so whether it's a natural disaster or like a electrical grid hit, being prepared matters. I have a Patriot Power Generator 2000 in my house. They're awesome because they run off of a solar panel that comes free with it. That means you don't have to worry about gas. You don't have to worry about fumes. You don't have to worry about noise. You don't have to about hoping that if it's an electronic hit on the grid, that your credit card still works, right? So these things are amazing. They're portable. You can carry it. I can lift it. You can plug in the most powerful things, your refrigerator, your tablets, all that kind of stuff. And it all powers off of that solar panel, which is great. And there's a ton of plugs, USB ports, whatever. If you want to get ahead of the curve for you, your family, your friends, go to 4patriots.com/Spicer, 4patriots.com/Spicer, the numeral 4, and get your Patriot Power Generator with the solar panel for free. And you're going to get some peace of mind, which I think you need. All right. Trump is going to meet Biden on Wednesday at the White House. I have a feeling this is going to go really well. Trump is going to be magnanimous. He wants to be seen as the victor, as the guy coming. Anyway, I'm excited about this. I want to show you a quick chart, though, speaking of maps where Trump won. Look at where Kamala Harris won. You notice something about that? Every state that she won, no voter ID needed. Just saying, just a fact. By the way, I don't mean to brag on this, but look at this. It is official. He won all these states. We called this. We did the Road to 270 every Wednesday, and we brought you data and facts and up-to-date polling and analysis. We nailed it because we brought on great guests. I had dinner with a buddy of mine Saturday night. And he said, God, the media missed this. And I said, I know, but I didn't. And he went back and I showed him the clip of my show. And he goes, God, you guys really, how does the media explain how much they failed on this? And the answer is they should. In any other job, they'd be fired. If you want to know what the inside scoop is on Trump, the transition, who's going to get the jobs, what he's going to do out of the gate, I'll give you that. If you're still relying on the New York Times or CNN, at this point, it's on you. I told you about J.D. Vance. I told you what the Electoral College vote. And again, it's not because I'm the smartest guy in the room, but I know who the smartest guys in the room are. I get them on the show. We do the analysis. And then you've got these excuses. I mean, speaking of the media, listen to this reporter, PBS reporter Laura Barron Lopez, claimed that Kamala lost because she didn't have a media ecosystem. She blames independent media like us for her losing. Nope, that's not it. Take a listen.
A little bit to your point, Dana, is that maybe it's not so much Democrats' policies or messaging or the words that they use specifically, but there is an entire right-wing media ecosystem.
Yes.
It doesn't exist on the left, and it does not exist in the center or mainstream, and people are getting their information in very different ways now. And Donald Trump and Republicans and Elon Musk and Joe Rogan know exactly how to reach Americans where they are, regardless of age and demographic, and that played a big role in this because of the fact of like that whether it was disinformation, misinformation, or different propaganda that they were feeding to the American public that made them feel the way they did, and the American public felt as though that they were being heard by Donald Trump.
All right. Well, that to me is just another reason to defund PBS. By the way, a bunch of immigrants in New York City clearly didn't get the message about the election. They took to the street to say that they aren't leaving. Take a look. Well, that's probably bad news for them because there's a lot of speculation that Trump is going to announce that Stephen Miller, his top immigration advisor, you remember, is coming back as deputy chief of staff in the White House for policy. You had Tom Homan announced as border czar. That was big. So if you're illegal and in this country illegally, you might want to get the message of the election. So that's what's going on. Plus, he also announced that Elise Stefanik, the New York Congresswoman, was going to serve in the administration. The Senate leadership race is on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about that with Meghan McCain in just a bit. You've got John Thune, John Cornyn, and Rick Scott. And over the weekend, everybody started coming out for Rick Scott. No offense, but if you want the agenda of President Trump enacted, I think Rick Scott's the guy that's going to pull this off. If you are feeling good about election, though, I can make you feel even better. I started taking probiotics a few years back because I was told that they're good for you. And then I met Tina Anderson from Just Thrive. She's come on the show a couple times. And Tina was like, hey, heads up. Like, yes, 70 to 80% of Americans have gut issues. So it's smart that you're trying to address this. But you're taking a probiotic probably that isn't doing anything because most probiotics don't get through your stomach and go on. 99% of probiotics on the market don't get through and they die off before they get to your intestine. Not the Just Thrive probiotics. I started taking these every day once I had that conversation with Tina from Just Thrive. It's not just your gut, though. It's your immune system, your sleep, your health. So much your skin is so affected by a healthy gut. So I've tried the Just Calm and the Just Thrive probiotic. These are awesome. Here, for a limited time, though, you can go to Just Thrive or you can get the Just Thrive or the Just Calm. 20% off your first order. Go to justthrivehealth.com. justthrivehealth.com and use promo code SPICER. All right. Without further ado, Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm so happy to see you, Sean. Go ahead.
No, you were saying you were happy, so I should let you roll with that.
Well, I was just telling you offline, I feel like since the election, I've just had so many people reach out to me personally, and then I'm also seeing on different cable news shows that I don't watch, but there are clips going out everywhere of all of a sudden everybody joining my side of the culture war, saying that defund the police is insane and biological men should not be competing against women, and maybe we've gone too far with trans surgeries. And I'm like, the water's fine. You're just about 4 years too late.
Yeah. Right, I want to get back to that because I do want to do a deep dive on the election. I just want to start with today is Veterans Day.
Yes.
And your family has literally service etched into it, right? It's your father, your grandfather. I mean, there's ships named after your family. In the Navy, what does Veterans Day mean for you guys as a family in terms of, I think sometimes people forget. I mean, I literally was quizzing my son last night. I said, let's go through this. What's Veterans Day? And he's like, well, we honor veterans. And I was like, okay. And what's Memorial Day? And he was like, well, he was trying to figure out why I was quizzing him. And I was like, listen, it's important. Each day is special for a different reason. And I didn't mean to be that guy with him, but part of it is I want my kids to understand service and sacrifice. And for your family in particular, it takes on a very different meaning, right? Especially with what your father went through.
Well, first of all, you're a veteran as well. So thank you for your service. The Navy, I believe, correct?
Yeah. And same kind of very different, but my great-grandfather's a Medal of Honor recipient. I mean, we have a long history of Spicers in the Navy. So we never made it to the ranks of the McCains. But
I didn't. They did.
Yes. So thank you. You're very welcome.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds really saccharine, but I try and make every day Veterans Day. I did a list of when I turned 40 things I learned at 40. And one of them was always thank veterans everywhere you are, give up your seat, buy them a drink, always say thank you for your service. And I'm like the only me and my sister were not in the military, did not join the military, but all my brothers did and two currently still serving. And I just feel like for me, everything I do in my life, from the moment I wake up in the morning to the second I go to sleep at night, like going to Starbucks and buying a coffee, I can do everything only because of the service of veterans and also the family members that make so many sacrifices. I have dear friends who are spouses of service members, and the sacrifice the children make and the wives make. And, it's just really, really, not to give a plug here, but there's this company that I work with a lot called Our Riveter that they're handbags that are made by military spouses, so they can still have a job when they're like moving from base to base, and the bags are very beautiful. So I always try
where can people go if they're interested in checking them out?
Instagram. It's all over Instagram, ourriveter.com. It was a Shark Tank. They got famous from Shark Tank. They went on and got investors, and it's all military spouses that make these handbags. So I always try and just support in small ways like that, and then in larger ways by just obviously recognizing. And anytime I have the capacity to, again, like anything small or large for veterans, I try and do. And just as trite as it sounds, I always hang the American flag in our house.
No, it's not. That's the thing it's not trite. Like, I think that setting an example of saying the things that you did to veterans, of flying the flag, we can't let the next generation not I think, and this as a parent, that the kids look at us and say, oh, I saw mom and dad do it, therefore it's okay. Words that we use, activities. So if they see us honoring people for their service, and believing in the awesomeness of this country by flying the flag patriotically and proudly, that makes a difference. Because too many of these kids today, like I said, I don't mean to be that dad, but I want them to understand the difference of the days, why we honor different people, why we honor, the service of those still serving on certain days, and the sacrifice that so many made on others.
Yeah. And I think that it's so, my brother Jimmy enlisted in the Marines when he was 16, right after 9/11 or soon after 9/11. And my parents had to sign, because you have to sign if you go in earlier. And he deployed the first time when I was a sophomore in college. And I just remember the great juxtaposition being around, even then I went to Columbia, Ivy League brats, and then going to Camp Pendleton and seeing my brother and all of his platoon mates and the other, men and women that were about to deploy to go to Iraq, and feeling like the people my same age are going to go and possibly die for my freedom. And I'm at this school where people are bitching about dumb things. And, Columbia is at least when I was there, it's a lot of rich kids with a lot of entitlement issues, and it doesn't seem to change. So I just always try and be that was the thing, even more so than my family, which obviously that is always embedded in me, but I'll never forget that experience more than anything. The first time watching my brother deploy, because I was like, he is giving up so much so I can, whatever, go talk about philosophy in a classroom. And it's so important to me. I mean, my dad's buried at the Naval Academy, and it's this sounds very strange, Sean, so don't take this, people might take this the wrong way, but it's actually kind of a beautiful experience for me to go visit his grave, because it's at a military academy. And I've been bringing my daughters since they were babies whenever I go. And the process of explaining, my eldest daughter's 4, and the process of explaining who her grandfather was, what America means, what the Navy is, trying to start it in her head soon. And then that graveyard is filled with incredible heroes who've sacrificed so much. And so I'm really trying to just be really teaching her about patriotism and veterans. And it's incredible. It's deeply important to me. And I think it's deeply important to me because I think we see so much of society fraying when it comes to supporting our veterans, or we have. I'm a little more hopeful right now than I was before. But there's nothing I can even say in words to explain how grateful I am to people who make this sacrifice. It's deeply selfless thing to do. And it's literally the foundation of what makes America so special.
Well, I served on the board of the Academy under Donald Trump. If I get appointed again, or I'll have an opportunity to get back up to the Academy, I definitely want to check it out. That's a beautiful cemetery that they have there. And they've done a great job of keeping it maintained and updating it so that it's so close to the water that there's been some challenges in the past, but now I have another reason to go check it out. Let's now turn to the election, because you were starting to talk about when we started the conversation, and it's funny because I have appreciated your commentary about why, even before the election, like the warning signs that Democrats should have seen, and frankly, I don't need to be giving them any help. But it was so blatantly obvious. Like, again, there's a line that people keep forgetting on the left, which is that, like, it's okay. Like, if you're an adult and you want to live your life anyway, I don't really care. I mean, don't affect me. But when you start going after the kids and making life-changing decisions for a child, and to your point, like the sports thing, like that's where I'm like, guys, how do you not, like, this is something that shouldn't be a partisan issue.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I've been so grateful for your commentary too on your morning show that you do and your podcast, obviously. I've had a really, a harder time finding sort of like beacons of, like, I like calm commentary. Like, I don't like when people get hysterical. It's very triggering for me from my work days working at The View. And you're always very like calm in your analysis. And so I've been so grateful to watch you in the mornings on your show. I think the thing, what's been interesting for me is even hearing someone like Joe Scarborough this morning go on and talk about, like, I was saying that Leah Thomas was too radical. I was saying, and I'm respectful to him. No, you weren't. It was
exactly.
women like me, but it was women like me that were saying it and being called transphobic and bigoted and being, I mean, to say that, like, societal backlash, like women like I have gotten over this issue, is putting it mildly. I don't care. I know what's right and wrong. And I've always thought this was just insane. And I think that Democrats are having a very strong and intense wake up call about just how radical this is and how radical particularly mothers in the country find this. My friend, not to name drop, but Drea De Matteo, who's the actress from The Sopranos, who, by the way, you should completely have on because she's brilliant. And she's a Trump supporter, and she's fully tattooed. She and her ex-husband, who I'm also friends with, they're fully tattooed. And her eldest daughter, she wanted to get a tattoo with her, and she can't because she's 17. She's not 18. And I was like, but she could change genders, but she can't get a tattoo. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, we are in the insane asylum. But, you know, I'm not I'm not a MAGA person. Everybody knows why, whatever. But policy wise, I feel very excited about the changes that are going to start happening, because I do think he's going to, like, on this issue, like, I do think some of this insanity is going to stop soon.
Do you? I mean, I see, that's the $1 million question that I can't, like, do they get the message? Because I see tweets from, like, Bernie Sanders that are like, we must double down on the economic strife of working men and women. And I'm like, dude, I do wonder, do you guys realize you went too far, or do you just say that she was a bad candidate and put your head in the sand?
I don't think they have an option. I mean, they're going to be like the party of the Whigs unless they figure out a way. I mean, they're going to be completely obsolete and irrelevant. You cannot win elections with these kind of demographic shifts happening. But I do have the same question. Like, when you see Senator Chris Murphy coming out and being like, talking about trans stuff in the way that I am, or excuse me, trans athletes in the way that I am, and getting annihilated, I do wonder what their future is. But this is unsustainable. I think it's unsustainable for America, and I think it's completely unsustainable for their party. And I'm not like a dunk person, but I really have enjoyed the past week since the election being like, I told you so. I've been saying it for years. I've been screamed at in public, and I was right. And you know what it feels like too.
I know. And that's I asked this question, I think, on the Friday show, like, to your point about the dunk, like, part of me, like the Christian side of me, is like, show grace, be nice to people, be kind, be above it. And then the Irishman in me is just like, screw them. You called me a racist. You called me this, and you got crushed. You didn't just lose. You got spanked. And I do, though, back and forth. I think it was Larry O'Connor I was talking about this, where I'm like, bad angel, good angel. I feel like, to some degree, like, it's not like I want to be like, dance on your grave and I was right, but I want to be like, see, you went too far.
Yeah, I feel like I have tried, and I really try and show Christian grace as much as possible, but I've definitely had a few moments that are a little, probably not the best reflection of that the past week since the election. But I feel like it's not that I feel like I've suffered. Like, I have an amazing life. I amazing career. Like, I have nothing to complain about. But there's definitely been sacrifices that I've had to make for my perspective on the world, as you have to. Any conservative in America knows that. And to see that there's so many of us, Beverly Hills, the district of Beverly Hills went for Trump. I lived in LA for 5 years. Let me tell you, I would have loved if some of you Republicans would have come and told me you were living in the same place I was, because California is a cesspool. And I was shocked to see. Sorry, go ahead.
So you know what? I would have never guessed that it went that district went for Trump. But you know, it was funny when I did Dancing with the Stars. I lived there. That's, obviously, because, that's where the show is. Yeah. And I would go to church. There was a cute little church right off La Cienega. And I would go to church and I'd walk out and people would tap me on the shoulder and say, Mr. Spicer, I just wanted you to know I'm with you. I would go into the, to various different, I don't want to call them out because a lot of them probably still work in the industry, but there were people that I would see who would come up to me and just say, hey, not everyone here is liberal. I'm on your team, or I'm rooting for your guy, or whatever. And I was it was like, we used to have a guy at the RNC who was our digital officer. And he said, this is back in 2014, maybe. And he had come out of Silicon Valley. And he said, it's easier to come out gay than it is to come out pro-Republican.
I think Caitlyn Jenner said that about coming out as trans, that it was easier. Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I loved, there was a line that you used a few times, and then you echoed it when we did like on election night or into election morning. And you were talking about people that were having a tough time maybe with the decision. And you said, something like this, I'm not going to paraphrase you to you, but it was like, I got over it. You can too.
I always say, if I can get over Trump's, behavior and it didn't break my brain, what's your excuse? Because I feel like I have the most, like, of all the reasons everyone has to hate Trump, I feel like I have earned the right. And I don't, my Christian going to church part of me, as I've let go of a lot of anger and just sort of, I'm fine. I've like come to terms with all of it and I'm fine. But there's a lot of people that can't seem to mentally and emotionally get over President Trump being so popular and winning. And quite frankly, I think it's just pathetic and unevolved. I just think he is extremely popular. He's a generational change president. And you have to understand that it's not just about him. It's about how bad your side is. Because I know a lot of people who really reluctantly voted for Trump. And part of it is that all this insanity and radicalism on the left, not just on culture issues, but on policy issues as well. And, to bring up the Hollywood stuff, do you know who Nicole Scherzinger is? This is like, I promise there's a point to this. There's a very beautiful, extremely talented singer who was the lead singer of the Pussycat Dolls. She's in a Broadway play right now, Sunset Boulevard, getting rave reviews, like supposed to just be like, again, like generational performance. She liked a tweet from Russell Brand with a MAGA looking hat that said like, make Jesus first again. And she is being ostensibly canceled. She is being booed at shows. And now there's talk that she will not get a Tony because of her support, by the way, not even explicitly of Trump, but of Jesus. So what happens now? Like, are they able, my question is like, are there still, to your first question, are there still consequences for this? Is Nicole Scherzinger going to be like railroaded out of her Broadway show for liking a tweet that they don't find tenable? And I just think that cultural stuff, while they may have small power in like Broadway world, I don't think it's sustainable for the rest of the country for a long period of time.
All right, guys, I hate to interrupt the conversation, but if you think I'm looking a little better, it's because I've lost a little weight. Now, I have spent my whole life struggling with weight. And I got introduced to a company, PhD Weight Loss, through my buddy Seb Gorka. Because I said, Seb, what are you doing? You look great. He's like, I'm not taking any pills. I'm not doing anything. I met up with the folks at PhD Weight Loss. And here's the cool thing. I'm down like 4 or 5 pounds in the first couple of weeks. But it's not a gimmick. It's not a fad. You meet with a nutritionist. They had a conversation with me about my lifestyle, what kind of foods I like, when I like to eat. And they created and tailored a plan for me that said, this is what it's going to take, how many weeks it's going to take, how we're going to get there. Here's what I want to weigh. How long will that take to get there? And then we'll get into a maintenance phase. But it's about accountability. It's about nutrition and all things I kind of knew, but they would sit down with me and go, okay, let's talk about breakfast. Here's what we can do. And it wasn't like forcing anything on me. Like they were like, give me some options. And it is so great because there's accountability. There's a structure to it. That I think I can achieve. And I'm starting down that path real nice. So they send you some additional food, some supplements at no extra cost. You get these weekly weigh-ins and accountability check-ins with the nutritionist. This is the last diet you're ever going to need. So you can give them a call at 1-864 664-1900, or just go online, myphdwaitlist.com, myphdwaitlist.com. All right, now back to the conversation. I brought up on the morning meeting the other day, I find flag burning abhorrent. Like, I really think you are a sick individual if you want to burn the flag of the United States. But as someone who served in the military, who respects, my view is, as much as I hate it, that's the beauty of the First Amendment, is that I have to like things that I find abhorrent, because that's what. But the left has taken this, what used to be the tolerance of saying that the beauty of our country is allowing things that you don't want to see or like, to now, to your point, we go and we literally cancel them. Right. And I'm getting a kick out of the fact that it's, as you pointed out, not even Trump. I liked a hat where somebody said, put Jesus forward. It's like, what is wrong with that? Why would you, and that's why I wonder where we're headed as a society, because the left is either got to go over a cliff, or someone's got to start pulling them back, like the Chris Murphys of the world, and saying, we've got to stop going this far.
Well, I want to know what kind of stranglehold this squad still has. Like, is AOC still like the queen of everything, the great genius of our time? I've always thought she was a radical fraud. I still think she's a radical fraud, but this is a woman who attended the Met Ball. And who's been on the cover of Vogue and Vanity Fair. It's absurd. But like, my question is, are the people who are smart enough to understand that their party is in absolute disarray, are they still going to like kiss her, what, and pretend like anything she's saying is in any way rational or going to work in any way? And one of the great things about the election for me is I know she's been running around saying she's going to run for Senate, or she was thinking about it. And I think look at New York's demographic right now. I mean, I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but I know that like even Manhattan almost went for Trump. So good luck running for Senate in the state of New York, given your politics.
Do you think the issue, how Democrats and the left went after women? And I get a kick out of, they went all in with over $1 billion, largely on an issue of abortion. And she did worse. You had a female candidate running on issues specific to women, and she did worse than Biden with women. I just wonder if they get the message, or they double down on reproductive rights.
Everyone in the media, and I literally mean everyone except like you and people in conservative media, assume that all women are liberal, all women are obsessed with abortion, and that's the only thing that matters, that we don't have like the brain power or faith or politics to care about anything other than abortion, that the economy, foreign policy, nothing else matters. And it's a lesson I thought they should have learned after Hillary, but they did not. I am so wildly and aggressively sick of being put in a bucket with progressive women. I am not like them. I don't relate to them. I don't really socialize with hardcore progressive people anymore. I have a few liberal girlfriends, but I wouldn't put them in that bucket. And I don't want anything to do with them. So why are you acting like, as a voting bloc, we're all the same? And I find it fascinating. And I just don't think identity politics works anymore. You see all these analysts like going after Hispanic people now in like quite racist ways, because they, voted for Trump, and they're now evenly split between Republican and Democrat. And they're really, really showing themselves to be quite ignorant and quite pathetic.
The level of outrage they get on everything that Trump says and does, right? And I was listening to my former boss, Reince Priebus, on ABC's This Week.
That poor man had that show.
What's that? Well, the funny thing is a couple things. One, they do a setup where like the roundtable, Trump wins in historic fashion in terms of the popular vote, sweeps all the battleground states, whatever. And the roundtable is Chris Christie, who is a known never Trumper, two Trump-hating Republicans, Jonathan Karl, who hates Trump, and then Reince Priebus. And I'm like, guys, you talk about you guys not getting the message, but let's defer to the media for a second. But Reince's point was interesting, because he said for basically 5 or 6 days, the media obsessed over a comment that not a comment, a bad joke that a comedian told at a Trump rally, okay, at the Madison Square Garden rally. And then you look at the vote of mainland Puerto Ricans, both in Pennsylvania, the I-4 corridor in Florida, and then the island of Puerto Rico itself, a Republican governor, a Republican legislature. The governor is now the former RNC committee woman. This is like all in Republican, right? And his point was, so how offended were Puerto Ricans at a joke that fell flat, that all of you guys thought was so career ending, yet all of the Puerto Ricans still supported Trump? It just, in my mind, it was another reminder that these guys like to find outrage that everybody else should be feeling in their opinion.
I don't know what happens to those kind of media spaces right now, because not only did they get it wrong, they got it so wildly wrong. My personal favorite moment of the election night, when I was looking at clips afterward, was Margaret Brennan, just YouTube it. She cannot compute. She's talking about the price of bacon, and she's like, president's not going to fix the price of bacon, and freaking out, and just clearly cannot process the fact that Trump just won in the way that he did. And I feel like, no disrespect to us because we live in the same neighborhood, but when everyone who works in media is just living in the same area and has the same beliefs, and you don't know one Republican in your actual life, you don't know one reason why someone voted for Trump, you don't really know why you have the job you do. I saw Jonathan Capehart doing something today. He was like, I can't process people voting for Trump. These people are among me. And it's like, well, no kidding, Sherlock. Of course they're around you. But I don't know what happened. I don't know how other than these shows just become more and more obsolete and irrelevant. I think this election also showed that new media and non-corporate media is vitally important, which I love and you love, because neither of us work in corporate media anymore. And I actually find it very liberating. And look, I really try and be a good Christian girl as much as I can, Sean, but I'm having so much Schadenfreude right now, especially on my old show. I mean, I'm just I have really enjoyed the meltdowns everywhere, because you and I have been warning people for years and nobody listened. I feel like being
the thing that's so funny is they to your point, it's like once the vote came through, they had the evidence, right? It's like, and they still, like the Jonathan Capehart's like, I don't get this.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well then that's on you. But the funny thing is, watching these folks try to process this, I think the bigger point that you were touching on is this irrelevancy. At certain point, I've said to folks, and I say this in a hopefully not narcissistic way, but we nailed the electoral vote count that Trump was going to get, not because I'm brilliant, but because I bring in smart people on the show and say, okay, give me where we are in Nevada. And they're like, okay, here's the early vote, here's whatever. And so my analysis was data driven by the smart people that came on the show, that I would see, okay, Meghan, you really know Arizona. Tell me what's going on there. What does it mean? What tells should I be looking for? And you'd say, okay, normally Maricopa County does this, but here's what we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, cool. That means pro or con, right? I could say, okay, so Trump's not going to get that, or he is, whatever. These guys don't want to look at data. They want to look at the people that are around them. They're like, well, when I was at the country club last Friday, everybody hates Trump, and so he can't do well.
Yeah, I think, Arizona's so interesting too, because everything I said was, and again, I'm not a genius on everything electorally, but everything I said that was going to happen in Arizona did. I thought Trump was going to win and Kari Lake was going to lose. So, which is an interesting, sort of split vote that happened. I think that going forward, I just, like I said, I'm sure you've read that there's a recent article in Puck that was talking about all these major media people that are having their contracts cut, and then people that are going to be leaving after the election. Hoda Khattab has done it publicly. There's rumors about Wolf Blitzer and other people at CNN. I think Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos are on that list as well. When you have, and I know this, I worked at ABC for 4 years. When these people are being paid more money than anyone is going to see, any average American is going to see in 10 lifetimes, to sit there and be shocked at these election results, I do think at a certain point, corporate America is going to come into play, and the executives are going to be like, what are we paying for you? What are we getting? And don't you want to have more viewers, not less? Don't you want people like me to trust you and watch you? I just don't know if ABC and NBC and CBS is going to be like, we're going to keep this roster because it's really working.
The thing is, I read this story the other day about possible in Newsweek, and it listed 10 possible people that Trump could consider for press secretary. And it was I'm trying to think of a couple names off the top, but it was so absolutely out of ridiculous world. And I'm like that. And I tweeted out at the time, if you're getting your news from Newsweek, then it's your fault. But these guys say stupid things. They get, they tell their viewers, oh my God, we all were surprised. And I'm like, and I keep raising my hands. We weren't surprised. if you actually put on, when you have roundtables on Sunday with never Trumper, never Trumper, never Trumper, Democrat, then you're never going to inform your viewers or yourself about what's really happening in the country. And to your point, if women are in your friend group are seeing this, the trans message, etc., not play with them, then something's happening and they just don't want to accept reality. And I think your point is spot on, that these guys at some point are going to say, hey, why am I paying you to be a reporter when you clearly didn't pick up on what was happening? And and that's where I hope some of these hosts and reporters get axed, because they're useless.
Well, also, at a certain point, it just becomes like liberal group therapy. At least that's what I think like late night television is. It's just like this like weird progressive male therapy session, which I have absolutely no interest in watching, obviously. I wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You have a choice for who should be the next press secretary. Do you have a recommendation, or do you think any of the people on the real list is a good choice?
So I'm going to be careful what I say here for some obvious reasons, but I will tell you, here's what I think. Where people are missing, where some people miss the boat, is the press secretary briefing that is done most days is about 15% of the job, maybe 20 on a good day in terms of prep. And then it's Karen feeding of the press, being in key meetings to talk about press strategy and media response and messaging, meeting with the president and other, so the problem is too many people go, oh, the briefing, I can do that. I can stand up there and answer questions. Okay, that's great. That's 20%. It's the most public facing part of it. But also you're running a staff of 12. You're coordinating through a whole of government, all the departments, the agencies. What are they doing? Do they, deconflicting announcements, making sure that policy pronouncements are lined up and everyone's ready to go. And I don't think that some people appreciate that. They're like, oh, I can go give a briefing and I can appear on Fox and that's great. That's 20% of the job. And so what I would say is having somebody who appreciates the totality of that job, which with all due respect to the president, he doesn't, he sees the public facing part of that, but also there's things that he probably doesn't pay as much attention to, like how many meetings are you in coordinating the rollout of these big policy things. So, so I think that's important. That kind of person. And there are some that are like a Mark Lauder, a Scott Jennings, who have been around the block. They understand stuff. There's some women that have been on the Trump campaign. But I also I will tell you this, having been part of the process in 2016, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump goes outside the box. And I know he's had some of these conversations. Last time we interviewed a lot of people who worked in the media to be part of it. And for a variety of reasons, it didn't work. So I think having people that know the totality of the job is important. That's what I would say. But I'll flip it back on you. Who would you like to see, not either in that job or anything else? Is there somebody that you're saying, I hope so-and-so joins the administration?
Yes. Tulsi Gabbard.
What would you like Tulsi to do?
I would love her to be Secretary of State, but I don't know how rational that is. I don't know if that's going to happen. She's a good friend of mine. I really trust her. In my fantasy land, I would love for the new Trump administration to signal that this is a bigger coalition that's sort of like, I guess you could call me a never Trump because I've never voted for him, but I don't really put myself in like the hysterical panic porn box that I think a lot of those people have gone into. I would really love to see like, this is a conservative party for conservatives in America, and even like center right independents like Tulsi Gabbard, or even though she's a Republican now. I would love to see her. Who else would I love to see? Oh gosh, I like the idea of Marco Rubio too. I really am just such a big admirer.
I think he'd be, by the way, I want to throw you a couple rabbit holes here, because I think Marco would be awesome at state. Mm-hmm. If Marco Rubio were to get Secretary of State or anything else for that matter, Governor Ron DeSantis would have to appoint his successor.
Yeah, I love that too.
Okay, so think about this. Here's two paths. DeSantis steps down and Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez appoints him to the seat. Another path, check this out, is what if he appointed, say, a Florida resident that had the last name of Trump, who...
do you think that's going to happen?
Just saying.
I mean, look, I expect Don Jr. to be running for office at some point in some fashion.
What if you got a free shot on goal without having to run right off the bat because you were appointed?
I mean, I think that would be great for Trump.
But then, and then, by the way, hold on, let me play this out. Guess who's the front runner for 2028?
Is it Don Jr.?
Well, it could be, but it could also be the current vice president who would need a vice presidential running mate.
So my only caveat to this, war room game is that you and I both know that people get tired of brands and don't like legacy politics and dynasty politics. I think even with Trump. And I do think what everybody needs to be careful of, myself included in this, is to not get so far out over our skis. There's still some tea leaves from the election that were not fantastic that I think the party could work on reaching out. I don't love the numbers with college educated white women. That's me, and I think that we can do more to reach out and get them out of their, I really blame the media. I think it's just like left-wing media echo chamber panic porn that they're all just like sending each other. I don't think we've done a good job of communicating with that demographic. I don't know if the rest of the party think it matters, but I think like down the road, generationally, it will matter. And I think, look, JD Vance and Don Jr., I don't know anything about Don Jr.'s politics other than obviously he's probably just like his dad, but this is very, very bro-y. And I still love women in power. I'm not an identity politics person. I just love conservative women. And I would love to see anyone in that kind I was really happy to see Elise Stefanik chosen as, UN. She's obviously like so good on Israel and really impressed me with when she interviewed the college presidents and, took them to task. So I don't know. I just think 2028 is a long way off. And I think I don't know. I just don't know if people are going to be as into Don Jr. as they are President Trump. It's hard to, I mean, look, it's certainly possible. I mean, I'm not like,
I know it's a long time. Let me ask you, there is an election on Wednesday in the Senate for the next majority leader.
Yeah.
Do you care who wins?
Messy on social media, Sean. Like everybody's like, but I was like, who are these people leaking to journalists on Twitter to like make their case? And apparently if you're not for Rick Scott, you're anti-MAGA. I didn't know that. Like,
well, I mean, look, I will say this. I think that the two Johns are trying to make amends with President Trump, but I think that the MAGA team feels like we want somebody who we know isn't going to, make excuses for the agenda and the policies. And Rick Scott is very clear that I want to enact the agenda. I think the public pressure is going to be huge for a lot of these senators.
What's interesting to me is, other than the social media, like I just find social media campaigning for jobs in any administration or a job like that to be just interesting, and everything's a reality show now. Everything's so dramatic. I really like all these people. I really like John Thune. I really like Senator Cornyn as well, Senator Thune and Cornyn. So I'm happy no matter. And I really like Rick Scott. So like whatever happens, I'm in a good place.
You know what I've realized though? There's a lot of people that I like. That doesn't mean that I want them to be, in charge of things.
Sure.
And that's where I think the difference is having been around the first 2 years, like we don't need like Donald Trump right now, especially while he's got a Republican Senate and a Republican House, has to realize the next 2 years are it. We can't hope that there's a Republican Senate in 2 years. So it's like, here are the things on the agenda. Let's get them done. Full stop.
Who do you like, Senator Scott, as a choice?
Like I said, I would like right now, I think that Rick Scott would do the best job of pushing forward the agenda that really needs to shake stuff up. So again, with all due respect to the other guys, it's not a personal thing. It's who's going to get who's going to push the agenda through, who's going to make sure that he gets his nominees done. And I just think that, to me, that's a no-brainer. Sure. Meghan, thank you for being so generous with your time today. I love the conversations and your commentary on two-way on the morning meeting when you jump on. And so I appreciate that. Everyone tune in to Citizen McCain and get her thoughts on a much more regular basis if you want.
Can I say one more thing? I have a new Substack, MeghanMcCain.substack.com, that I just launched. I was very trepidatious to launch, and it's been really fun. So
I love it. I've been having fun with I moved my whole newsletter, SeanSpicer.com, over there, just because they're actually really great to work with, and it's a great place to grow your audience. So MeghanMcCain.substack.com, right?
Thank you. And thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure.
All right. Happy Veterans Day.
You too.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that that conversation with Meghan McCain. As I said, Newt Gingrich is coming up later the week, Steve Bannon at the end of the week. We're going to probably have a lot more announcements by Trump personnel-wise that we will be able to bring you. And I'll try to fill in some of the blanks on what I'm hearing for certain jobs that are being floated as well, based on the people that I'm talking to. So this is going to be great. Then obviously this big race on Wednesday for Senate Majority Leader. I think, as I said at the beginning, Rick Scott is the guy right now that everyone in MAGA world is coming out for, because John Thune and John Cornyn, I think there's a lot of skepticism. And having been there 2 years ago, as I said to Meghan a minute ago, like, we need people coming out of the gate strong that are going to fight for the MAGA agenda. And look at what the president did over the weekend. He basically said to Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo, sorry, I need loyalists. And for a variety of reasons, you've been disloyal at different times, and I'm not having you. So he means business. You look at the Tom Homan appointment, et cetera, et cetera. This guy, the conversation I was having with folks with the transition, these guys mean business. There's going to be a plan to come in and execute right off the bat. If you're looking for Donald Trump, I mean, I actually think it was, in a weird way, great to see him go out for 4 years, because they used that 4 years so well. America Policy First Policy Institute, the Heritage Foundation, writing up all these plans, saying, when you get back in, now that you know what you know, here's how we can attack the problem. He's ready to go, my friends. So go to my newsletter twice a week. I put that out. It's free. You can always pay to upgrade, but it's free. Just SeanSpicer.com. If you are interested in, the president said the other day that there's not going to be more rallies. My movie Front Row Joe's, go check that out. If he really is serious about not having another rally, this will take you inside what it's like to go to one of those rallies in a way that I haven't seen. And buy the CD, because I'm going to tell you something right now. I have a feeling that it's going to be hard to see this movie soon. So I would consider buying the CD on the website. Go from there. All right. I appreciate you starting your week with us. Happy Veterans Day to all those who have served. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.